Today, we're digging into a pretty provocative argument. It's the idea that one of the 20th century's biggest breakthroughs, the contraceptive pill, might also be one of its most important cautionary tales, especially for us today. So let's get right into it.
Right, and this is where the story always starts, isn't it? The pill was an absolute revolution. I mean, it separated sex from procreation, blew the doors wide open for women to get into higher education and the workforce like never before, and it completely reshaped our world. The immediate effects were huge and, for so many, incredibly positive.
And that is the central question here. The argument we're looking at today says that while we were all celebrating the obvious benefits, this whole cascade of unintended consequences was quietly unfolding, just beneath the surface. So first, let's really appreciate that initial promise, because it was about so much more than just contraception. It was really about autonomy. That was the big idea, right there. The power for an individual to actually map out their own life, to plan a career, to decide if and when to have a family, with a level of certainty that was just, unimaginable before. A truly revolutionary concept.
But this is where the story starts to get a lot more complicated. The argument is that this incredibly powerful tool created waves that nobody really expected, leading to these complex, system-wide trade-offs. This is the unforeseen ripple effect.
And this is the key idea we have to grasp. A first-order consequence is the obvious result, the thing you intended to happen. But second-order consequences? Those are the chain reactions, the slow tectonic shifts that you only really see clearly decades down the line.
So here's the crucial point the author is making. We got a massive boost in individual freedom, but we might have paid for it with systemic stability. The argument is that the technology was optimized for the individual, but in doing that, it unintentionally destabilized the collective.
So, what did that destabilization actually look like on the ground? Well, the analysis points to a few interconnected areas where the social fabric, as they call it, really started to fray.
Okay, look at this. What's so fascinating here is the massive gap it shows. People consistently say they want 2 or more kids, but what's actually happening is our societies are ending up with fertility rates way below the replacement level. The author calls this the demographic winter, a long-term population decline, and argues it's a direct result of the systemic pressures that got created after the pill became widespread.
And this number just shows another seismic shift. The analysis suggests that the same forces reshaping fertility also change the game for long-term commitment. You see this massive correlation, a doubling of the divorce rate, that fundamentally altered the institution of marriage. And this is a paradox that so many families feel right now. What started as an amazing opportunity for women to work slowly turned into an economic necessity. The argument is that when the labor supply basically doubled, wages kind of stagnated while costs went up, turning the dual-income household from a choice into a structural requirement for a middle-class life.
And the ripples just kept spreading out. The source even points to research suggesting the pill's hormonal effects could subtly alter who we're attracted to. It argues our new economic focus kind of devalued the unpaid but crucial work of motherhood. And then there's the irony that the freedom to delay having children created the intense pressure of the biological clock.
So this all brings up a huge question, right? If these consequences were so profound, why on earth didn't we see them coming? Why was this such a massive, collective blind spot?
Well, the author breaks it down into 4 big traps. First, we're just wired to solve the problem right in front of our face, not the one 30 years away. Second, we tend to think in straight lines, A causes B, but a technology's impact is a complex web. Third, the pill got wrapped up in the idea of progress, so questioning it felt like you were being regressive. And finally, we have this illusion of control, this belief that we can always just invent another new tech to fix the problems the last one created.
And this quote just absolutely nails the problem. You had all these experts in their own lanes looking at their own little piece of the puzzle, but nobody was looking at how all the pieces fit together, or how a change in one box would send shockwaves through all the others.
Okay, so that's the historical analysis, which is fascinating in its own right. But here's where it becomes really urgent for us, right now. The source argues we are on the verge of making the exact same kind of mistakes with new, even more powerful technologies.
The argument is we're facing similar breaking points today, specifically with 2 huge forces: artificial intelligence and mass immigration.
Both are often sold as these straightforward first-order solutions to immediate problems, like boosting productivity or filling labor shortages. Sound familiar? But the real question is, what are the second-order risks that we're completely ignoring?
And this is where the lesson from the pill becomes a practical game plan. So for AI, the second-order risk is something called cognitive atrophy. Basically, we could get dumber because we stop using our skills. The proposed fix? Mandate a human in the loop. For mass immigration, the risk identified is the erosion of social cohesion. The solution? Stop measuring just GDP growth and instead shift to integration-first metrics, tying immigration levels to a country's actual ability to integrate people successfully. This chart really gets to the heart of the recommendation. We need to change how we keep score. Instead of obsessing over GDP, which is purely economic, the analysis suggests we should prioritize things that reflect the health of our society, things like social trust and family stability.
So, this all boils down to three big proposed shifts. First, make sure that when we use AI to make things more productive, it doesn't make humans obsolete in the process. Second, like we just saw, measure social health, not just economic output. And third, we need to reclaim what's fundamentally human, things like real community and connection, not just digital efficiency.
This quote just crystallizes the whole warning perfectly. We chase efficiency, but efficiency and human well-being are not the same thing. The source is really urging us to see that a super-efficient solution can create a deep, long-term crisis if we just ignore its human impact. And really, that's the choice we're left with. The history of the pill, as laid out in this analysis, it's a powerful precedent. It forces us to ask ourselves if we have the foresight, the wisdom, to manage our powerful new technologies any differently, or if we're just doomed to learn the same hard lessons all over again.